Illinois may not have liked the final result on Sunday against Michigan State, but I watched the game over again, and there's a lot of positive to take from the game. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to a Monday morning edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you so much for making us your first listen each and every day. My name is Sunny Verma. You can find me at the Sunny V or Locked On Illini on all your favorite socials, including apparently TikTok again. I think there was a 12-hour ban of that. The country went crazy, but apparently that's back too. So whether you're one of the TikTok crazies or on Facebook or Instagram, whatever it is, just find Locked On Illini if you'd like. Send me a message, say hello, say something nice, something not so nice. All I ask is that you keep it constructive. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So as I mentioned, that Michigan State game on Sunday, it's not a result that Illinois fans are going to ultimately be happy with or satisfied with. And, oh, by the way, I apparently got a whole bunch of new Michigan State Spartan fans who joined the show yesterday, at least in the comment section. So I hope you guys stick around. I know you don't agree with the assessment that, let's be honest, not just Illinois fans, but most of the national writers are all agreeing that Illinois may not have exactly gotten a fair whistle in that Sunday game. But it's a new week. It's a Monday episode, and I like to try to keep things positive. So as I do every single game, I rewatched the game, and there were some noticeable positives that I kind of took away from it that, quite honestly, has me pretty excited for the rest of the season. I'm going to go in order. Okay, so I believe I came up with 4, and number 4 for me was Kylan Boswell. And I know that might surprise a bunch of you because he had a rough first half. And I'm fully agreeing with you that he had a very rough first half. His shots from three-point land, which it just seems too early to take, but he was making them a couple weeks ago. And I think he just wants to get that touchback. I don't agree with that. But what I'm focusing on with Kylan is at the end of the game, when I admittedly kind of gave up on the team winning once Conspiracy went down, because I felt like there's no guy who really wanted the ball to, try to make plays and get the job done. Well, at the end of the game, Kylan actually did. I was actually really proud of him. He took the ball, he attacked the rim, and of course, unfortunately, 2 of the plays didn't work out at the very end of the game. One was what I think was a good pass to Ivicic, and Ivicic just wasn't ready for it. But now, of course, after the fact, we hear that Ivicic had the flu, or I believe a strep throat or something like that. So he wasn't 100% there. So, it was unfortunate that play didn't work out. But what I did like is that Illinois just didn't give up or falter the way, quite honestly, I thought they were going to once Kasparis fouled out. Kylan did a great job, in particular the last 3-4 minutes. Do I want him to be the guy in the last 3-4 minutes? Of course not. But it's nice to know that at least we have an option if for whatever reason Kasparis can't finish games. Number 3 for me was the fantastic way this team just plays on the road. I gave credit to the Michigan State Spartans fans and students. That arena was electrifying. It's always fun. Even, of course, I had Illinois to watch, but even when I don't have a personal favorite and I'm watching a Michigan State game, or any game for that matter. Like, one of the things I love about college sports is the atmospheres at home games are just so much more fun and personable than the ones at the professional level. Michigan State fans, they were loud. They were obnoxious. They did their jobs. You know who wasn't phased? I don't think Illinois was. And again, more credit to Illinois, a team that's super young. And, a team that you would think would or could possibly get phased being in environments like that they've never been in before, especially in the Big Ten Conference. But this team seems kind of comfortable. And to me, the credit for that is Brad Underwood. His purpose of giving us such a tough out-of-conference schedule and putting us, at tough away arenas was to have the team ready for the Big Ten schedule and to have them ready to go into whatever tough arena that they have to go into and not be phased. And that's kind of what I saw. Well, that strategy is paying off, and hopefully it'll continue to pay off because there's a lot of tough arenas to play in, especially in the Big Ten Conference. Now, this might surprise you guys, but the number 2 biggest positive I took from the game against Michigan State is Will Riley. Number 2. That's right. 16 points in the first 10 minutes. I feel like I'm wearing my voice out every single episode talking about, guys, I swear there's going to be a Will Riley game coming, and he's going to be capable, I hope, to win a game just by himself. And Sunday, it almost happened against Michigan State. Obviously, he caught on fire. He was a kid who wanted the ball and felt like he can get any shot that he wanted on the basketball court. And truthfully, he can. Unfortunately, foul trouble also fouled Will. And once he came back in the second half, he kind of lost the little zone that he was in. And while he did make a couple clutch baskets at the end of the game, he was kind of he wasn't as locked in as he was earlier on in the game. And my number 1 biggest positive from the loss to Michigan State on Sunday was Morez Johnson. I'm going to say it again. I know all of my everydayers in here and in the Discord, by the way, shout out to the Discord, know that I'm a big Morez Johnson guy. And I truly, if you are able to rewatch this game, go rewatch the last 3-4 minutes of game. Morez Johnson is growing into the player that we've been dreaming about for the last, 3 years that he's been committed. In particular in the last play of the game, when Kylan Boswell was fouled, he made the first free throw, and everybody knew he was going to miss his second one on purpose. Brad Underwood brings Morez Johnson in, and the camera cuts to it perfectly. Morez goes right up to Kylan, and they come up with some sort of strategy on grabbing that rebound. And Kylan misses the free throw on purpose, and the ball falls in Morez's hands. That's work. That's hustle. Ultimately, he wasn't able to hold on to the ball, and we know what happened. The ball fell to Kylan, and Kylan shot over the backboard, and the referee called that illegal. But the fact that Morez Johnson, everybody in the world knew what was going to happen. And I say it all the time, Morez Johnson was put on this earth to grab rebounds. He's getting better and better every single day. A lot of the hype from Sunday's game, and deservedly so, is for Will Riley and those 16 points he came out with in the first 10 minutes. But I'm arguing the best freshman, and the thing I'm most optimistic about, is the growth of Morez Johnson. I think at this point, it's no secret that Morez Johnson and Tommy Ivisic are a perfect pairing next to each other. Again, this show is mainly focused on the positives. Sure, there's some negatives, but we all went through it on Sunday, right? One of the negatives I'll just mention is it looks like when Kasparis is out, that really ruins any opportunity for Ben Hummerkaus to be a substantial player on the basketball court as well. His game just kind of really does rely on Kasparis giving him space and finding him good opportunities for open looks. But if Ben Hummerkaus is not having a good game, I'm telling you, Morez is growing into what could be a very valuable starter. I've said this before. I cannot wait to see Morez Johnson as a sophomore in the Big Ten Conference. Potential all Big Ten guy. And if he decides to, for whatever reason, stick around for a third year, because again, we're kind of lucky in the sense he doesn't really have true NBA size, at least height-wise. If he was 2 inches taller, he'd be a lottery pick, similar to the kid that we're going to be seeing later on this week at Maryland. But if Morez stays 2-3 years, he could go down as one of the all-time great bigs. And that's just something I'm very excited for. Again, this kid committed to us, I believe, as a sophomore in high school. And he stuck through his commitment, which we just don't see very often in college basketball anymore. So if Morez can just continue to grow into the player we all know that he can, he's going to be a vital cog in this Illini basketball team and hopefully the Illini basketball team moving forward. This message is brought to you by Prizepicks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, Prizepicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or regular season, Prizepicks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. Now it's playoff time. There's no better way to get in on the action than Prizepicks. Here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least two players. And if your pick hits, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. That's right, 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks. Ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prizepicks. Prizepicks. Run your game. All right, welcome back. And again, if you aren't subscribed to the channel yet, we're getting so close to, I think, 2,000. We're only 25 away as of this recording. So please, my goal is to hit that 2,000 mark by the end of the January. And if we can make that happen, I would be sincerely appreciated. This is airing on January 20th. That means that's 24 straight days of content that I've been producing for this channel. I haven't taken any days off. On Sunday, I literally ran a half marathon in the morning and came back and immediately did a post game for you guys. So if you don't mind, I don't ask for anything in return. If you just hit that subscribe button, that would be amazing. Another person worthy of the subscribe button is my friend JR, who I'm bringing back on Monday. JR, thank you so much for coming back on.
Of course. Glad to be here. Glad to talk power rankings. A little bit of that Illinois MSU game if you want to talk about that at all. And then, of course, the game's coming up this week. Love talking Illini hoops.
Yeah, I mean, so as of this recording, I was actually surprised. Illinois really didn't move at all in the net rankings. They're still at number 8. That further proves that I don't know how net rankings work. I guess I can think about it, like Michigan State's a tough place to play. And Illinois, stood their ground. They covered the spread. The spread, I believe, was 3. They lost by 2 points. And, the analytics, I guess, still continue to like Illinois. But what the committee really wants to know is, does JR really still like the Illini?
Well, we'll get into it. Let's go ahead and start at the bottom, and then we'll work our way up to the top, just as we normally do. So at the bottom, new team to the bottom, Minnesota, no longer last. We have Washington.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Washington
Minnesota with a big win this past week.
Yes, they beat Michigan, so we're going to give them some props. They're going to move up one spot. Washington is last, then Minnesota, Rutgers. I've moved Ohio State down to the bottom 4. Wow. Not great for the Buckeyes right now. Then you have Penn State, Nebraska, Iowa, USC with a big jump, Indiana, UCLA. That Iowa game kind of brought them back a little bit more. And then you have Maryland, Northwestern, giving them a lot of credit for their win and then the way they battled against Michigan, Oregon, Wisconsin.
So, Jared, let's just talk about, real quick. Sorry to cut you off, but
you mentioned
UCLA, you mentioned Oregon. Mm-hmm. And, we've kind of alluded to this before on your past experiences here. And it's just those West Coast teams, they are struggling in Big Ten play. I know you did a fantastic episode with Kent talking about Mick Cronin's comments about how obviously this conference is very physical. And, unlike football where, Oregon came in and, just kind of steamrolled everybody until they met Ohio State in the playoff, the West Coast teams are having trouble to adjust on the basketball side.
They are, and I think that Kent brought up a really good insight into the, the wildfire stuff and everything like that. Obviously, thoughts and prayers to everybody out there going through that stuff. I'm honestly amazed that UCLA has not, canceled, or in USC has not canceled or tried to reschedule any games at this point. I mean, we saw Miller Moss on social media post that his childhood home had burned down. We don't know. Has that happened to, some of these other guys who are on this team, that have come from that area? We have no idea. The UCLA, the Rose Bowl, their football stadium was in an evacuation area over there. So it is is hitting close to home over there for him. And I think this is also adding stress to Mick Cronin. I'm not trying to give Mick Cronin any, any reason to say like it's okay to throw your players under the bus. I do think hard coaching is good, but I do think it gets over a line. But I can understand that for UCLA. Oregon, I don't really understand, other than Dana Altman is still trying to coach this team together and try to put them, out there executing the game plan. What I saw against Purdue, that was one of the biggest issues, was just poor shot selection in a lot of ways. When plays broke down, they didn't really have a playmaker to go to kind of get them the bucket. Jackson Shellstad and Nate Biddle are kind of those guys, but they're not really, some of those top tier players in the Big Ten that can do that for them. And so what you saw happen was you saw bad shot selection, and that's kind of how Purdue was able to extend their lead in the game and ultimately finish it out.
All right, let's see who you got after Oregon.
All right, so I have Oregon, Wisconsin in the top 5, and then Michigan. Got to move them down after that Minnesota loss. You can't stay in the top 3 after losing to Minnesota. Sorry, Michigan.
Fair.
And then this is where it gets a little dicey. Michigan State is obviously first, but number 3, I have Purdue and then Illinois. I actually have Illinois moving up.
Interesting. So
yeah.
I'd probably have Purdue higher than Illinois, just because of recent history. Now, I said on this very show about 2 weeks ago that Purdue had a schedule that lined up very well for the Boilermakers. And I'm going to say the same thing right now. Now, after this Michigan State game on Sunday, Illinois has a schedule that weighs pretty favorable towards Illinois. So I do expect them to rack a couple W's in a row. But I thought that Purdue, especially with that victory at Oregon, would probably jump to at least number 2, but you still have Illinois higher.
I mean, who had the more impressive victory at Oregon? Illinois or Purdue?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to turn it into transitive property, but you look at this Purdue team and you look at this Illinois team, and Illinois, they dropped one to Northwestern that they shouldn't have dropped. Well, guess what? Purdue dropped one to Penn State that they shouldn't have dropped. Purdue played against Auburn, the number 1 team in the number 1 or number 2. I always forget the AP poll. I look at so much Ken Palm and Net. I don't even pay attention to the AP poll. I don't know who the number 1 team in the nation is ever because it's so irrelevant to me.
Right.
I think the numbers do so much of a better job. So at least the number 1 team in net rankings, Auburn, that was a neutral site game, and they lost by a hefty amount in that one. At least when Illinois, now I know it was a home game, but at least when Illinois played Tennessee, they were in that game the entire time, and you could argue they should have won that game if Illinois just knew how to pass the ball in there at the end of the game. So it hurts, and I do think that wins and losses matter, but like my question I kept having to ask myself is, what has Purdue done to deserve being over Illinois? Because right now, my only thought process is, well, Illinois lost to Michigan State. Well, Michigan State's also the best team in the Big Ten right now. Okay. They're playing like it. And I don't ever blame refs. I don't think that's, I shouldn't say I don't ever. Very rarely do I blame refs. But there were some questionable calls on Kasparis Giaconis in that game that had him fall out. Only played 9 minutes. Your best player on the team only plays 9 minutes. And at the best team in the Big Ten, you come down to the wire and you have an opportunity to win that game. If Kylan Boswell, makes the, I think goes for the shot instead of tries to pass it there to Vicic, I think you probably win that game. But sure. I mean, there's little stuff like that all over the place. I look at this Illinois team. They've been in every game. They've not, been uncompetitive in games. And unfortunately for Purdue, they've been uncompetitive at times. So for me, unless Illinois drops another bad game, it's going to take Purdue beating Illinois for me to put them over them in my power rankings.
No, I'm not going to sit here on Locked On Illini and argue in any sort of way Purdue should be higher than Illinois. So I'm going to go ahead and take your word for it. I'll absolutely take that. No problem. But after this next segment, let's preview the upcoming week for the Illini, where they're going to be playing Maryland on Thursday and Northwestern over the weekend. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed, that's $200 in bonus bets win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, JR, I can't make up my mind on Maryland. I like them as a team. They've got my favorite player that doesn't wear an orange and blue jersey in the entire conference, but they have a coaching issue. Let me know what you think about Maryland.
Sonny, are you aware of Maryland's quad 1 record right now?
I'm not.
It's 0-4. It's 0-4. Are you aware if Illinois is a quad 1 team or not?
I would absolutely assume that they are.
Yeah. Illinois should win this game. I know Maryland is a very competent opponent. They've shown that they have some very good players on this team. Julian Reese has been doing a great job. Derek Queen has emerged as a star on this team with him playing as just a freshman. Jacoby Gillespie, Rodney Rice. I mean, they have some good guards on this team. This is no longer just the Jameer Young show where he goes out there and does everything for the team. What this is, though, is this is the starters show, because what I've gone and done is I've looked at the conference games for Maryland, and the conference game, their bench is only averaging 11 points per game. I just think you're going to have more depth than that if you want to beat this Illinois team. So I think this plays into Illinois' hands, that the bench for Maryland has not been spectacular this year, especially with the way that Illinois is able to utilize every single player, keep you guessing. They play tough on defense. They also are going to test you in every single way when they're playing offense as well. And I think that this Maryland team is not going to be able to sustain playing their starters for the majority of the game, or at least requiring their starters to do the majority of the scoring for them the entire time. They also struggle with defensive rebounding a little bit in conference play. This is something that Illinois is obviously going to be able to capitalize on. And right now, they're not doing a great job of keeping bench players from the other team not scoring very much either. Benches on the other team are averaging more than 20 points per game on them right now. So I look at somebody like Will Riley, I look at somebody like a Dre Gibbs Lawhorn coming off the bench and possibly having a big game in this one. Am I looking at 20 plus points? No, probably not. But I could see, DGL having maybe 14, 15 points in this game. Will Riley maybe coming in and getting himself, 15, 16 points, something like that. And you see the bench of Illinois really helping him out win this one.
I mean, that'd be great for Will. Obviously scoring 16 points in the first 10 minutes against Michigan State. It really looked like a lot of his confidence had been coming back. His all-around game, to me, has been turning around over the past about 3 games or so, but the scoring still wasn't there. It was certainly there at the beginning of the Michigan State game, and now that you're giving me these stats about the bench performance against Maryland, I'm really starting to get a little hopeful that Will can really kind of turn things around and continue on this positive trajectory that he's on currently. Let me ask you a question. Could this be the final year for Willard at Maryland?
It could get that way. I mean, he bought himself a lot of stock bringing in Derek Queen, and if Derek Queen continues to get better, you're obviously going to want to hang on to him. So I look at it kind of like, I don't know how many of your fans pay attention to National League college football, but I kind of look at him a little bit like Billy Napier at Florida, where Billy Napier was kind of on his way out that last season, but he brought in DJ Lagway, and that was really promising. And it was like, well, if we get rid of Billy Napier, we're going to get rid of DJ Lagway too. He's got the star quarterback. Do we just keep him and see what he can do? It's kind of what you're looking at here with Derek Queen and stuff like that as well. He's the star player. He's going to be really good for him. The problem is, does he leave after this year to go to the NBA? He probably does. And if that happens, then if you're Kevin Willard, you've lost your kind of Trump piece there to keep you on the job if things don't go well this year.
All right, let's talk about a team that took Michigan to overtime on Sunday. The Northwestern Wildcats. Obviously, Illinois is going to be looking to exact some revenge on the Wildcats. They'll get to have Northwestern at home this time in Champaign. I'm very much looking forward to that game. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, similar to the Indiana game where Indiana had a lot of personal fouls per game. The last 5 games in Northwestern is averaging 20 personal fouls per game. That is 15th in the Big Ten right now. So Illinois, a team that does a good job shooting from the free throw line. Obviously, you're going to want to take advantage of that. Also, the defensive rebounding the last 5 games has just been absolutely awful for Northwestern, not even exceeding 20 defensive rebounds per game as a team. It's really been a difficult point for them. Matthew Nicholson, obviously, he's a good player to have down there in the paint, but he's just not that dominant player that a team like Northwestern needs. And we'll see what happens with Jalen Leach and how he bounces back from this Michigan game. And he got ejected from that game. I don't know what your thoughts were on that call. It was completely bogus to me. But sometimes that can get to a player, right? Like you get thrown out of a game and you're kind of like playing a little bit more cautious. We'll see how he comes back from it. What do you think of the call?
You're speaking to the crowd at this point when it comes to bogus calls on Sunday. You're right. It didn't look intentional to me. It looked like, again, sometimes the movement just happens, and to get ejected. I mean, I can understand if you want to call a flagrant one or a personal foul, but to kick the kid out, I thought that was a bad move.
Yeah. Another thing in this game is another rebounding issue for Northwestern is they're giving up a whole lot of offensive rebounds to other team. I just had the stat pulled up here. I'll pull it back up here. They're giving up 34.3% offensive rebound rate to other teams in their past 5 games. Well, Illinois, in their past 5 games, they just so happen have an offensive rebounding rate of 35.2%. That's second best in the conference in the past 5 games. So Illinois doing a good job of taking care of the basketball, doing a good job of getting offensive rebounds. This has been a huge success for their team in the past 5 weeks or the past 5 games. If you can continue that against Northwestern, these are going to be the keys to success that I think Illinois needs to bounce back from losing that Northwestern game earlier in the season and come back. And I'm not going to say blow them out because it's the Big Ten. It seems like it's a dogfight every single week.
And it's a rivalry game.
Right, and it's a rivalry game. So, I mean, these are the kind of things, though, that could propel Illinois to victory. Maybe later on in the game, you see Illinois get up by, a good, not a substantial margin, but a good margin to lead them in this one. But I also don't want to discount the fact that they could just blow them out because we saw Oregon, we saw Indiana. Like, it's very possible you come to play Illinois, you just get blown out by 30, 40.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see whether Brad makes an adjustment. At the end of that Northwestern game, the Northwestern game plan became very obvious. Whoever Ben Hummerkaus is guarding, just back him down and, get 2 points that way. So I'm going to be very curious to see if there's any sort of adjustment on strategy from the Illinois side. Jared, thank you so much for coming on today. Please let the crowd know once again where they can find your fantastic work.
I appreciate it. Yeah, the Big Ten Huddle. We have a football channel where you can find all the football work, and then we have a basketball channel where you can find game recaps. And me and Kent go live on Mondays at 10 a.m. Eastern time to do power rankings, and then on Fridays is when we're going to do our second show of the week. We always try to do 2 shows, and Sunny's actually going to be on for that one at 1 o'clock Eastern time on Friday. So that's going to be a good time. We'll do some game recaps and talk about kind of stuff overall. And then I'm also going to try to turn that a little bit into like bracketology. If coaches say anything interesting, which, we might just have a Mick Cronin segment every Friday because he seems like he's going to say something every single week that it's like, all right, we got to talk about this because Mick Cronin's gone crazy again.
Yeah. All right, JR, actually, before I let you go, I know you're an Ohio State fan. How are you feeling about Monday night?
I'm feeling great. Buckeyes and Irish. This is a legendary big brand on big brand matchup in the college football playoffs. So it should be a really fun game. I'm hoping and praying that it's more like the Tennessee and Oregon game than the Texas game. That might be able to just sit back and relax a little bit more if that happens. But Notre Dame's a really good team. So if Ohio State doesn't play sharp and doesn't execute well and they get into some penalty trouble again, watch out. The Notre Dame team can come in and they can take the game. But I think if Ohio State plays the way they should, they have the better athletes, they have the better players, especially considering all of Notre Dame's injuries and everything like that. I like the Buckeyes to win this one by 2 scores or more if they execute the way they're supposed to. If they don't, Notre Dame will take advantage of it, and this will be a game in the 4th quarter, and that will have me pretty nervous.
All right, Jared. We'll see you on this show next Monday, but I'll be making a cameo on your show on Friday. So we'll see you Friday.
See you then.
And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Locked On Illini. Again, I'll have content for you all week long. We'll be previewing the Maryland game. We'll be previewing the Northwestern game. I watched that Brad Underwood conference after the game on Michigan State. Thought he said some interesting things, as did Tom Izzo. So I'll be going over all of that. Let me know what you liked about the show. Let me know what you disliked about the show. This show is my show, but trust me, I always listen to all of your guys' feedback. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.